Hello, and welcome to the Enhancing Clinical Practices and Outcomes stream of the SNOMED CT Expo 2021. My name is Susie Roy, and I'm the Customer Relations Manager for the Americas and Collaboration Specialist at SNOMED International, and I'll be moderating this session. Please use the live Q&A feature in your AirTouch device to type your questions to the presenter, and all questions will be answered at the conclusion of the presentation. So now I'm pleased to introduce Ms. Monica Jones, who will be presenting Unlocking to Improve Clinical Care. Monica, please proceed.
Thanks very much, Susie, and lovely to be presenting to everybody today. So over the next 20 minutes, I'm really going to take you sort of through some of the my experiences, my sort of top tips and what I've sort of learned, particularly over the last sort of year, 18 months, around unlocking the power of data to improve clinical care. I'm currently the Chief Data Officer for the Health Data Research Hub for Cancer, DataCan in the UK, and I'm employed at the University of Leeds. I'm also Associate Director for Health Data Research, which is a collaboration of both academic and NHS organisations across the north of England. So I just want to cover a bit around sort of what we have created as part of our strategy for Health Data Research UK. And it's very much about improving health data in order to be able to release that power that I was talking about. And at the heart of that, we've got these research hubs that have been in existence for 2 years now. Can't quite believe that it's that long. And it is very much about uniting, on the left-hand side, the health data research, which is predominantly NHS data, but cohort data, registry, trials data, and then making that accessible through the Health Data Research Innovation Gateway that allows us to discover, identify, link, analyze, and provide that for further analysis. Inherent in this is the patient and public trust, which is absolutely important when we're talking about healthcare data. Sure that we hear the patient voice and that we act on that. So over the last sort of couple of years, we've been improving health data, and as I said, there are a number of hubs that have been created. And I think when I reported sort of last year to this conference, we were still sort of working out what we meant by sort of data quality and data utility. But actually, I'm pleased to report that we've now developed a data utility framework which supports the effective health data curation, and that was published earlier this year in the scientific journal BMJ Health and Care Informatics. So I recommend you reading that, and it's very much based on standards. It's all about sort of core standards. I always say you can't have quality without standards, and therefore, you know, SNOMED CT is at the heart of that as the language of medicine and the most widely used clinical terminology in the world. So a quick mention of sort of what DataCan is about, and this, I think, is the vision, our vision on a page, and it's very much about linked longitudinal records for both sort of research, but also for population health management. Putting patient at the center. We know that cancer in particular, but many other diseases are highly complex. So we need high quality curated data, both structured and plain text, and bring in genetic data, whole genome sequencing, and we partnered with Genome as one of our founding partners at DataCan, but also then bringing other mediums such as radiology, pathology, and other data to improve access, improve quality, ensure fair value, which is essentially saying that a lot of effort is put in by our colleagues, particularly in the NHS, and we've got to make sure that that is paid back as well. I mentioned briefly earlier about the Health Data Research Innovation Gateway, and this is a fantastic portal. It's and so just Google Health Data Research Innovation Gateway or words to that effect, and you'll be taken to this amazing portal that currently has 665 data sets, many tools, projects, and once again that refers back to the standards that I was talking about. So I've put a couple of examples here that are actually within our portfolio that I, as Chief Data Officer, have been working with colleagues on. So the comprehensive patient records for cancer outcomes here, which is a longitudinal primary and secondary care data set from but also then the National Cancer TRE, which I'm going to come on to later. And within certainly the NHS in the UK, we still measure things very much in an episodic way. So it actually is difficult to see things in context and the intended or unintended consequences of obviously using SNOMED CT because of its structure as a clinical terminology and because of its hierarchical relationships and the descriptions, then actually you get much more contextual sort of data of each benefit when we're trying to unlock the power of data to improve clinical care. So what have we seen? We can't, talk really of what's happened in the last sort of couple of years without mentioning COVID as a global pandemic. And what we saw last year was this dramatic sort of fall in 2-week wait referrals. We saw a significant fall in cancer diagnosis. And we've actually calculated sort of an estimated, we're probably missing about 85,000 cancer diagnoses that we would normally expect at this time within a year. And so there's something that we really need to do to improve clinical care. We've found the change in presentation, both in terms of the mode and also the stage of presentation. So when we're talking about cancer care in particular, we're talking about how advanced the disease is being captured and into the system and having their diagnosis earlier. They will present with much more advanced disease. Many countries are following our approach in terms of real-time data, and also there's a 19 at cancer that was launched at the opening session of the European Cancer Organization Summit and presented the evidence to the Europe Beating Cancer Committee, so that we can share our learning and that we can actually use the real-time data that we've been doing to actually affect the change and start to actually try and mitigate some of those measures of impact that I referred to on the previous slide. There are some things that actually are really very poorly sort of covered. This is an example of a project that we did working along with a pharmaceutical company, Roche, as a partner, particularly around early triple-negative breast outcomes. And as one of our PPIE reps, Jackie Gaff, says, this is a vital piece of work. As patients know, there is no effective treatment for triple negative except older drugs, which are not very effective, and consequently that is much feared. So what we did was over 2 sites, so that's Leeds and Edinburgh. We actually developed the breast cancer clinical protocol, the data curation. We did a feasibility assessment. We extracted the data to a single data model. So having this common data model is really important in terms of actually doing things in the standardized way, and actually then analysis of the results, presentation of that, working very closely with Roche scientists. All data and insights were available for clinical care and for academic research. So we've really unlocked the power through this, and we're intending to do other multi-center large studies like this, working closely with pharma, where it's approved by the patients and delivered by DataCam. We're very proud of the work that we've done then, and we got recognition from the Royal College of Pathologists earlier this year by winning the annual prize for the most impact full research. So for the next sort of a few minutes, I'm going to talk about trusted research environments. So people say this is very much sort of an emerging trend and the flavor of the day, and I'm actually a huge advocate of trusted research environments, also known as data safe havens. They're highly secure computing environments that provides local access to health data for approved researchers to use in research that can save and improve lives. We're very fortunate in the UK that we have a National Health Service, and that actually helps us to expedite that. But we must make sure that actually we don't take this for granted and that data is safeguarded. So there are 5 sort of key criteria that we apply to this. So it's about safe people, safe projects, safe settings, safe data, and safe outputs. And why are they important? Because making data through a trusted research environment means that people can be confident that their personal health data is accessed securely and their privacy is protected. They help to make research, clinical research efficient, collaborative and cost effective, and deep insights, and also that allow us to improve care and to save lives. They provide approved researchers with a single location to access valuable data sets. The data and the analytical tools are all in one place, so the data doesn't go anywhere. It's like a secure reference library. So researchers and analysts bring their tools to the environment, do the analysis within it, and then actually can publish the results from that. So in particular, NHS Digital, which is the national body in England for healthcare data, has provided a TRE service. This came on the back of the work that we have done for COVID, in particular reporting to our national scientific body, SAGE. But actually, we then realised that it was a fantastic resource that others could use. So at HDR UK, we have been discussing and agreeing with NHS Digital rapid, safe and trustworthy access to the data in a transparent way. So how does it work? So routinely collected data sets come into the TRE. This is a cloud-based platform. It's an AWS platform, could easily be Microsoft, Google Cloud, or any other public cloud. But it is in a secure way and has all the cybersecurity. And then we also have brought in all of our COVID specific related data sets. So we have Pillar 1, Pillar 2 testing, so that's in hospital and in the community. We've got primary care sort of medications data. We've got all our vaccine data and anything that's been reported as part of the pandemic. And that is linked via our NHS number, plus or minus sort of date of birth and sex, but using the national de-identification tool, Privitar. So this then produces a pseudonymized key, so that the approved researchers here don't see any identifiable data, but it is de-identified and linked within the trusted research environment. And there are two major users at the moment. There's the Cardiovascular Hub, which is funded by the British Heart Foundation, but is an HDI UK registered hub. And there's ourselves, DataCan, who are the first official users and the lead organisation for the Cancer TRA. And over the next sort of year, our intention is to do the analysis of the impact of COVID on cancer referrals, using open standards such as SNOMED CT in both local and national cancer data. It's a bit mind-blowing. You know, we've got access to 12 billion rows of data and more than 50 million patients in England, because we're looking back 10 years, including the 2 years of the pandemic, but also looking to the future. And this is some of the technology that is being used. We can do geospatial analysis and bring in publicly available data, reference data sets, such as deprivation index, in order to be able to look at health inequalities in particular. And we all know that that certain demographic groups have been much more significantly affected by the pandemic than others. And COVID has been shown to impact cancer referrals and have significant impact. And the graphs at the bottom there are essentially the paper that we published last year using real-time data that I actually referred to last year a bit, but also there is a cancer-specific SNOMED session that is going to be held the day before this is done. So it's in the future, but will be in the past. So I'd recommend attending that if you can. It's really important that we actually understand what we can do here. But there's absolutely no way that we can do this without the metadata being described and in a standardized way, and using clinical terminologies such as SNOMED and the interoperability of systems to bring them together using technologies such as HL7 Fire and Loink. So the specific analysis is not only about enumerating the impact of COVID-19 on cancer pathways, but it's also a robust evaluation of the NHS Digital trusted research environment, because we want to make this a collaborative effort. We want to be able to show how, by using these data and these environments, that we can unlock the power of data, and that we can actually then, improve clinical care, clinical outcomes, and save lives. And that's not just a throwaway comment, that is actually the truth. And we've in the UK, well, in England, NHSX and other national organisations have just published the National Data Strategy. I was involved very much at the heart of sort of developing that, and as part of the consultation groups, and it's called Data Saves Lives. So this is actually what we are driving towards. And so these are some of the analytics that we will be continuing to do over the next year. And so I'm very excited about that. So finally, I just wanted to sort of bring this all together in terms of where we're at, where we're heading. So in terms of open, federated and interoperable systems, we have the Health Data Research Innovation Gateway, which I talked about, which allows us to discover, access, analyze and communicate. We have this interoperability infrastructure, the metadata catalogs, the cohort query engine, and other federated services. We've got the trusted research environment. So I talked about the NHS Digital one here, but the SAIL data bank has been in existence in Wales for many, many years. And there are other genomics and ONS and trusted research environments. And we are, as part of HDI UK, really looking at pushing the boundaries in terms of innovation to federate those data sources and allow even better sort of insights to support clinical care. So I hope you found that useful. I've done a quick rattle through what are the things that are happening in my world. I hope you find it interesting, and thank you very much for listening, and we'll probably move on to questions, but I'll hand back to Susie now to see where we go next. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Monica, for that excellent presentation. And yeah, so as Monica said, we're just going to ask attendees to please just give us a moment while we switch over from our pre-recorded content, and then Ms. Jones can address all of your questions that you've been submitting live. See you in a moment. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for your patience with that. Because we did start just a little bit later, we will have a couple more minutes for questions. So go ahead and please enter your questions into the Q&A portion of your AirTouch device. I actually have a question for you, Monica. Because the UK has now rolled out SNOMED CT across primary care, have you seen any sorts of improvements in data quality?
Hi there, Susie. I'm not sure if you can actually see, or can you actually hear me?
I can hear you. It looks
like
your screen is frozen, but I can definitely hear you.
Yeah, I'll just switch my camera off because I think there's a bit of a technical sort of issue, and see if I can switch it back on again. But yeah, thanks very much for that question. It is something that we've been looking forward to for quite some time, and as you said, across the UK, we've in particular in our sort of GP systems, we've now actually rolled out SNOMED CT, and of course that actually has a huge sort of impact in the overall sort of provision of healthcare and also from a public health sort of perspective. So because of the characteristics of SNOMED, as I mentioned during the presentation, we are actually seeing that sort of filter through into the systems such as the national TRE, and the quality of the data has actually improved enormously, and also the contextual data that we can analyze, particularly around comorbidities and the effect of underlying health conditions on both sort of cancer and COVID sort of recovery, and therefore sort of improving outcomes is actually sort of getting much better. So we look forward to being able to demonstrate that. That might be something for the presentation for next year. Thank you.
That would be excellent. Let me see if there are any further questions. One more. Is there an ongoing automated monitoring of the developments or changes in the epidemiological data in the UK, or do all the searches have to be done implemented manually?
Once again, that's an area of improvement. So particularly with the advent of our shared care record system, which actually I reported on sort of last year, but what we've been doing with the Yorkshire and Humber Care record. So using interoperability standards such as HL7 Fire, then we're actually connecting up our sort of existing EHRs, whether those are industry provided, sort of vendor-led, or whether they're homegrown ones. What we're seeing is that we can build up dynamically analytical sort of data sets for epidemiological sort of purposes, for population health management, and actually then set up subscription services, so that rather than having to manually curate the data and do all of that sort of wrangling every time, you've got the confidence that the fire profiles are applying those standards with the SNOMED content within them. And we're actually seeing, you know, much more automation in that space. There's still quite a way to go, but it's certainly heading in the right direction.
I was just about to say, it sounds like it's heading in the right direction, so that's great. Okay, let me do one more check in the Q&A box here. Not seeing any. Monica, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Again, thank you to the audience for bearing with us at the beginning with the black space and in the middle. And if you have any further questions for Monica today, or throughout the SNOMED CT Expo, please send her a question via your AirTouch device. And until next year, when we get an update on this work, Monica, we'll see you then. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much, Susie. Thanks, everybody.